Hey everyone, Chase Wardian here. Thank you for tuning in to Region Buzz 219. Today we have a person who's never been in here before, LeAnn Stutler.
Hello, hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I want to start this episode by saying on the date of recording, happy birthday.
Thank you.
So how long have you been working here now? My reference of time is very lost now.
Yeah, I think everybody's reference of time for the last few years has been out the
Yeah.
window. I've been here for a little over a year now.
Okay.
Yeah, I started at the beginning of April
Gotcha.
of 2022, and it's June 7th, 2023.
Yep. And when you were on the show last time with Nick, were you working here yet?
I was not.
Okay, so that's a new...
Yeah, I was thinking about it this morning because it's like you said, it's been a hot minute. That was 2021.
Wow, okay.
So
wow.
it's been 2 years, yeah. And I remember that because it was the first time I had ridden in a car after my second foot surgery.
Oh,
that was the first
okay.
time I got to put my cowboy boot back on instead of a walking boot. So I was very excited that day.
Oh, those walking boots are fantastic.
Oh,
So comfortable.
It's so comfortable, easy to drive in. It's all.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, dang, has it been that long ago? Yeah,
Yeah,
lots
I know.
happened in that 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, what else has happened in those 2 years then, since you've been on here?
Oh gosh. Well, I came here and I recorded my EP "Welcome to the Circle."
Right.
And that was released in January 2022. So a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago. That was
long.
It was so long, but it was so much fun to record.
It
really
was. It was a lot of fun.
And we started that, I think, the summer of 2021. And then just because of the way that the world still was at that point, it took us a while to record those songs.
It did.
But we had a good time doing it. So
Oh, yeah, and the product came out amazing. So.
I'm very happy with it. And I'm taking them with me to shows. And speaking of that, I'm playing a lot of shows.
Very nice.
And it's been awesome. I've gotten to travel a little bit more with music as far as different areas around the state. I've started making my way into Southwest Michigan, suburbs of Chicago still. Got to go to Southern Indiana a couple times. I'm branching out a little bit more. Lots happened.
Oh, you don't want to just stay in the region?
As much as I love the region, because I'm very proud for many reasons to be from Indiana. But
Yeah.
it's time to start branching out a little bit more. So
No, understandable. I mean, you can only get so far just staying here, and branching out is a very big thing. Even if it's small, just getting right out of the state, because that's where it really starts to.
it is because it's still work, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
So you still have to go find the jobs. It's not the conventional job where you drive to it for 9 to 5 every day. You have to go searching for the jobs.
Right.
But at the same time, especially since you worked on Welcome to the Circle,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know that those songs have a lot of meaning to them, and I think we're in a time right now where people need to hear those songs.
Absolutely.
So the further I can get out and play those songs for those people, then the better it is in my eyes, at least.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to go back a little further. I think we met, it had to be my freshman year.
It was my senior year.
Okay.
Yeah, at Lake
I
Central.
couldn't remember about that, yeah. And I was only there for like half the year because of my surgery and whatnot. And so,
Why is it always surgeries with the two of us?
I mean, well, the three of us, including Nick.
Oh, that's very true, too. Nick isn't here today, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean...
It's always something with the three of us.
Yeah, no,
We make a
maybe-
great team here.
maybe with the... I was talking with Nick yesterday, and we were talking about the computer and getting a new computer, and he texted me, he's like, maybe we'll just have Ben go and donate plasma for a few
Oh my
months.
gosh.
Because we know that they will not take my blood or Nick's blood.
They'd probably take mine, but I don't do needles. So if Ben's cool with the needles, then Ben can go do it.
Funny things, we haven't talked to him about this. It's not something serious.
Oh,
but I haven't
so
even,
Ben, you're
so-
going to go do this.
Yeah, so Ben, when you inevitably listen to this, you're going to go and donate your plasma for a few months so we can go and get a new computer.
Oh my gosh. Everybody outside of our little bubble's going to listen to this and be like, what is going on over there?
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of where I wanted to try and take this show this time, because before we focused a lot on what each song that we were doing was. And I felt like this time I wanted to get a little more personal. Actually, you know what? Let's just pick up from last time, throw more people out, and get right back into the astral projection conversation.
Okay.
No, but a lot of those episodes, they were inevitable to go off topic and start talking about things, and I feel like sometimes that's what people want to hear anyways.
You know, and like I agree with you 100%. And the thing is, I think so many people don't realize that we have a really awesome music community here in Northwest Indiana. And we're all friends with each other, or if we don't know each other super well personally, we do know people that do.
Right.
So it's like this giant spider web that, like, you get in the room with somebody and 20 minutes later, you feel comfortable with them for the most part, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just inevitable that those conversations and those tangents and the side stories and the inside jokes, like, it just happens. But it really shows how unique and I don't know what other word I'm looking for, but like it's just a special thing that we have going on here.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what genre you're in or consider yourself in, where you're playing, who's in your band, if you're playing solo or not. It's just it's like a family, and it sounds weird when people say that, but it's true.
It is. And I mean, because over the past 4 or 5 years I've been with the company now, I met a lot of people, and a lot of people that I'll meet like 3 or 4 times, and I'll be able to have full conversations with.
Yep.
This one I'm going to call Josh Andrews out on.
Always call Josh out.
Absolutely. He came here and he did an episode of the podcast. I have talked to him multiple times back when he was at Broadway, and I've seen him multiple times. A few months back, he got a job at the Family Express warehouse that I work at.
Okay.
And I saw him walk in, and I didn't know he was starting nothing. I walked up, I'm like, "Hey, Josh, what's up?" He was like, "Hey, how's it going?" My manager comes up to me later, he goes, "Yeah, he did not remember your name. He felt so bad." And I'm like, I'm not even, like, offended by that, because that's how it is. Like, the amount of times that we've talked, had conversations. I mean, I sat here for an hour and listened to him ramble in his podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's just, there's so many people. That's what it is.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I don't expect anyone to ever remember everybody's name and where you know me from. But he knew. He was like, I know him. I don't know from where yet. He's like, but I know him.
The wheels are turning. The wheels are turning. It's all good, Josh. We're saying it all out of love
Absolutely,
and fun.
yeah, all out of it. And it was 8 a.m. on his, like, first day of work or second day of work at the job. So, like, there was already enough pressure there, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, circling back to high school, since my freshman year was your senior year, you never had the new band room.
I didn't. I was still in the freshman center, and I that was my first year in band, period. I was always a choir kid, so that was my first year in band.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was my first year in band. You know this. Other listeners, viewers might know. But for those of you that don't, I went to Columbia College Chicago and majored in music. And I was always a choir kid. I was in choir from 5th grade until I graduated. I did some stuff with church choir, and I was in chime choir at church, and I play a few different instruments. So, like, I knew how to read music and stuff, but I didn't have much experience as far as, like, an actual classroom band setting goes. And so I signed up. I went and talked to the band director at the end of my junior year, and I played saxophone in symphonic band for a year. And then I was in jazz band with you, playing guitar. You were a much better guitar player than I was. I let you take all the solos.
Ooh,
you and Matt, you guys took them all.
No, Matt took them all. I was not, and I'm still not good at improv. I don't work on it as much anymore, but I don't know. There was something about jazz band that, like, I don't listen to jazz much now.
I don't much. I didn't then. I didn't now. I will admit it. I have total respect for the genre and the people that play it. It's just not in my wheelhouse.
Same here.
But like I said, I did it more so for the experience of being in, like, an actual classroom band setting. I was in a band at the time, but when you're playing with 3 people and everybody's doing their own thing versus you have to work as a cohesive unit with, at Lake Central, like 50 people.
Right.
It's a completely different ballgame. And then you have a teacher standing in front of you too, where if it's just the front person in a band, it's whatever they're saying goes, or whatever you talk about in your band meetings. Here's a teacher, you have to follow it, and there's a grade on the line.
Yes.
I was a person that cared too much about grades.
God, no. Because I did jazz band in middle school. For the sole fact of I get to play guitar in a class.
That's fair.
And because I was like a year after I started playing guitar, because I started playing guitar 5th grade, joined a jazz band in 6th grade, and in middle school it was before school.
Oh, yeah, the early morning, like 7:30 or whatever.
Yeah. And like thinking about that now, it's like, man, it's so early, 7:30, and then you get to high school, and school starts at 7:15.
Yep.
And you're waking up at 5, whatever. And now I'm waking up for work at like 5, whatever, and I'm just like...
Funny how the world works.
Yeah,
right? You're like, I'm going to get out of this cycle, and then it just keeps going.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, and I feel like that's more what people were trying to tell me when they say, like, you're going to miss high school. Mm-hmm. Like, I always thought they meant, like, I'm going to miss school.
Yeah.
And I don't think, for me at least, it wasn't that, because I was not very into, like, my classes. Like, I got good grades, like, I got by.
Yeah.
But I didn't take AP classes. I didn't know if I was going to do college. That wasn't me. But I think it's more of the experience of being that age and dealing with only that stuff as opposed to what you have to deal with now.
Yeah.
Is probably more what people think when they're actually saying that.
Yeah, at least, hindsight 2020, right?
Yeah.
I look back at it and I'm like, oh, I didn't have to go, like, I wasn't in sports or anything. I was strictly like the academic and then like the music person. That was it. And I'm like, I had friends that were in track and they had to be there at like 4:30 in the morning. And I'm like, nope, not doing that. Not doing that. I look at it now as like, oh, you're going to miss the friends that you had back then, because I've got a handful of people that I stay in contact with from high school.
Right.
But other than that, like, my social circles have completely changed. And that's just a part of growing up, part of maturing. Everybody goes their separate ways. Everybody gets jobs, they move, they get married, and all that kind of stuff. And there are times I wish I could go back to that. But then there's other times I'm like, why would I want to take that from somebody else, the experience that they're having now? And take it for what it was. Nothing lasts forever. But it's okay. There's more to come. So.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it. Was it number 82? The real long page that it was the round solo thing, where everyone had to do the soloing in a row.
I vaguely remember that. I remember practicing for like a week knowing it was coming up,
Yep.
and I still messed it up.
Oh, I still botched it every time.
Other than that, the only thing that I remember from jazz band, besides going to Purdue Jazz Fest, was the song Hot Sauce, and I don't remember how it goes. I just remember Hot Sauce being in giant letters across the top of the page with an exclamation point. I'm like, ooh, this is supposed to be really saucy. And it wasn't.
About that. It was not. I did totally forget about that.
We started playing it, I was like, what is this? It got better. It got way better, because I think that was one of the pieces we did take to Purdue.
Yeah.
But I was like, what is this? But that was just me. I think that was part of my perspective of, like, I'd never done that before, too. I've never been in jazz band. This is all brand new to me. So trying to figure it out while everybody else had, at least 4 years experience for the most part.
Oh, yeah. No, and there were a lot of people that were really into jazz, and props to them. And, I mean, even in the area, like, I know over at, I know the restaurant.
Regional.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know how I forget that. Every Sunday or every other Sunday, there's the big jazz jam there. And, I mean, there's a lot of people there that go and play, and a lot of instruments that I didn't think would be involved in that.
Yeah, it's interesting whenever you have that conversation. Like I said, I don't play jazz. I'm not particularly good at it. But being at Lake Central and having somebody like Harmon, who was a jazz fan, I mean, from the day he was born, and talking to us about it and taking music history and appreciation in high school. And then I went to Columbia, which is a contemporary music school. So a lot of our stuff that we talked about went back to the beginning of jazz, to the beginning of blues, because that was really the beginning of popular secular music here in the United States, right?
Right.
Outside of the classical realm that you think of with music theory. So I had this story of jazz, like the history of jazz, drilled into my mind so much, and people still forget that, like, banjos were used in jazz music.
I didn't even know
banjos were used in jazz music. Dixieland, I should say. But then, it turned into jazz, and they were utilized in jazz music.
Okay, yeah, I guess when you put it that way, then it makes more sense. I'm thinking, like, jazz, and it's like,
We're not talking like John Coltrane jazz. We're talking
No.
about like early funeral jazz, walking through the streets of New Orleans, kind of Dixieland jazz. But like it's part of the story and it's overlooked so much.
It is. And with that too, a lot of when the movie came out, I tried to get a lot of friends to watch, and there was a lot of people that loved it. Whiplash.
Yes.
I feel like at that, because I think that was like 2014.
Something like it's been quite a few years since I've seen it.
Yeah, but there was something there for a little bit where jazz had like this modern spike of like people that didn't listen to jazz all of a sudden were starting to watch. And the movie wasn't like big either for being J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like an art film. And it was. And it was a very aggressive film, and I love it.
It's very interesting because I know people that have watched it that aren't musicians and then people that have watched it as musicians. And it's two completely different viewpoints on it. And how would you react in that situation? The musicians always seem to be on one side of the line and everybody else is always on the other side. And...
Right, like, yeah, I'm assuming the musician's like, he's barely offbeat and he got a chair thrown at his head. But the musicians are like, no, you're going to screw it all up if you're, like, get it.
You don't understand. This is how it works.
Yeah. There's no turning back. You screw this up for everyone, everyone's going to look at you and you're done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Meanwhile, like, Joe Schmo in the audience is like, it sounded good.
Yeah, it sounded good.
It sounded good.
It's fine. Oh, man. So, where else are you playing around here? Like, where are your, like, mainstays around here? Do you have any that you, like, frequent?
Yeah, I hang out in Chesterton a lot, actually.
Okay.
I've been hanging out at 209 Tap Room for like almost every month, I think, for the beginning of the year. I've got a little bit of a break there, but then I'm going to hit it hard. And I think August I do like another once a month for like 4 or 5 months or something. I'm on their schedule. So awesome people out there. I hang out at Region Ale as far as like the jam nights and gigs and stuff there. So that's awesome. I playing up at the Dunes Pavilion this weekend in Dyer Fest.
That'll be cool.
I got to play at the Dunes Pavilion at the Indiana Dunes a lot last year, so that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
So we'll see what the schedule holds. It's still got openings, but you know, everybody calls last minute for things, especially during the summer. It's our busy season, but there's always time to make more time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm floating all over the place though. I'm
nice. So for about a little over a year now, you're now teaching here.
I am.
So you were teaching before this, I believe, correct?
Just kind of in and out, like out of my living room. Anybody that wanted lessons, I'd teach them. And it never was anything super serious because when it's a bunch of kids, usually they quit after a little while because that's just the nature of kids, right? But no, I've been here and I've had quite a few students now for months that are still coming and they love it and I love it and I'm enjoying teaching seriously a lot more than I thought I was going to. I knew I would enjoy it, but I'm getting so much more out of it too as a teacher. Like it's not just a student thing. Like I'm getting a lot out of it.
Yeah. No, and I know because for a little bit a couple years ago, I did some teaching when I had a little more free time.
Yeah.
And it required me to go, like, I'm looking at book 1 of that guitar book that all guitarists know, the Black Book.
Yes. Hal Leonard. Good old Hal Leonard.
But I'm going back through it, and I feel like I just had, even though I knew all the information, there's something about teaching and going back to the very basics. It's almost refreshing and helps me out as much as it helps the student.
Yeah.
Which I did not think was going to be a factor whatsoever.
Yeah.
I have this down. I'm teaching. But no, like going over and over it again, like it just further engraves it into my brain.
Oh, yeah. Like there'll be times where I'll be like demonstrating something to a student and I'll mess it up and I'll be like, do as I say, not as I do. The classic, like, you know, everything that a parent says to their kid, I'm like, do it the way I told you, don't do it what I just did. But it makes me go home too and I have to be like, okay, I got to go over this for next week so that I am better prepared when I go in to help and answer questions and maybe approach it from a different technique too, as far as if somebody's struggling with something. I mean, I've got a 10-year-old girl and an 11-year-old boy, And I mean, their hands are still really small. So it's like, okay, how am I going to rework this for the time being until they have their next growth spurt of how can we get past the song that's giving them trouble?
Yeah.
So then I have to take it back and take a week and be like, okay, what can I do here? How can I approach this? Pretend my hand is half the size that it is. And, you know, it's making me a more patient person, and it's making me take a step back and go, okay, it's not just the way that you do it. You got to approach it a different way.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not opposed to like unconventional teaching habits.
No.
Like whatever works for the student is what I will do my best to do. So I've got one student that like, being in the room that we're in can be a little overwhelming sometimes. So when it's nice outside, I'll take him outside and we'll sit on a blanket and we'll prop our book up against the brick wall of the building, and we'll do our lesson outside, and we'll sit on the floor so that way we aren't, or on the ground, so that way we aren't squirming so much, and we're getting the sunshine, and just kind of switch it up as far as an atmosphere goes. But like,
very cool.
I'm all for it. If it helps somebody, let's give it a shot. If it doesn't work, we go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because that's great to hear, because there's so many. I mean, even in school now, it just seems very cookie cutter. And it's just a mill of just get your diploma, get out, get your diploma, get out.
Yeah.
But we have the ability to work with these individual students and find something that works for them. That way they do stick with it. And if they don't, if they still don't enjoy it, then no hard feelings. They go on to something else, because it's not for everybody.
It's not. Especially if you're going to eventually take this outside of the hobby realm and do it as a career, or aim to do it as a career. Or, you know, a band on the side, have your day job, do the band on the side. It depends on what everybody's goals are. But like you said, there's different ways to approach something. So I was the kid that, I was in honors classes all growing up, but math still gave me a really, really hard time. And I could find the answer to the math problem, but because I didn't do it the way that the textbook said to do it, I would be marked wrong. Yeah. Or I would lose half the points or something.
Hated that.
That's just it. And my dad would sit there every night with me, and I'd do my homework, and he would double check it, and he would tell me which ones I got wrong and tell me how to do it. And he would look at things from a different perspective too and say, well, if you're having trouble with this way, try it this way. And because it wasn't what the math textbook said or what my note packet from my teacher said, I would be marked wrong. And there's multiple ways to reach a goal.
There is.
As long as you are doing it in a way that is respectful, and you're putting in the time and the effort, then as long as you reach the goal, you reach the goal. I'm not going to sit there and say, you're not playing the F sharp on the 4th fret with your pinky because your pinky's too short, but you're not doing it right, so we can't move on.
Right. There's multiple ways to play a chord, multiple places to play a note. Like,
exactly.
There's a lot of work around there.
Exactly. And there are certain things that are difficult for people, and it's beyond their control. I mean, when you're 11 years old and you're not a grown adult and your hand is half the size of mine, like, I'm not expecting you to reach that F sharp. No. If you can, great. If we just got to build up the strength to push it down all the way so that way it's not making that muted tinny noise, then okay, we got to work on the strength. But if you physically cannot reach it, then I'm going to let you slide your hand for the next 6 months till you hit your growth spurt. Like,
no, my students all need to start stretching their fingers so that they can get that 5 fret stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way around that. I don't move past day 1 without that.
No. Oh my gosh.
I guess with that, how do you feel about capos then?
Oh, I love capos. Whoever invented capos and like chiropractic work, you are like my saints in the world. Like, you guys are fantastic.
And so I always got my lessons from Nick.
Nick doesn't use capos.
No.
Nick does not believe in capos.
Nick does not believe in capos. And so for the longest time, I just never bought one, never used it. But then there was a time where I stopped taking lessons for a little bit, and I was just kind of doing my own thing. And then I bought a capo. And I'm sitting here and I'm playing some of these things, and I'm like, Nick, what have you been holding from
I know,
me?
right? Yeah. You know, there's benefits to using a capo quick changes, playing everything in the same key. You just gotta slide the little bugger up and down the neck. But at the same time, I understand from like a theory perspective.
Sure.
Or like there's certain styles. I think jazz and blues are one of them. Or like if you put a capo on something, it just doesn't have the same sonic quality. You know what I mean?
No, it really doesn't. And so I do understand where he's coming from.
I get it. But I play country music. Like three or four chords in the truth. That's all I need. Give me the capo.
Yep.
God, I sound so lazy, but
it works.
But you know what? Here's my argument is that like when I go online and I find my tabs for my song or I take a request someplace and I've never played it before, I'm doing music theory to find out what fret to put the capo on so I can still keep it in the key of G or C.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, there's still something behind it. It's just like especially for something on the fly when you're just learning a song. And I'm sure Nick, like to this part of it, I'm sure he understands.
Yeah. Or he's going to sit at home listening to this going, what did I do?
Yeah, no, he's going to be there.
Who did I put in charge of this?
He's like, I'm going to fire her. I'm going to take away his partnership. And I'm going to find new people to run this studio with
Once
me.
again, Nick, all out of love. Just like Josh.
Oh yeah, we're just going to start grilling everybody.
It's a good thing we're friends with everybody, right?
Yeah, for real. Yeah, say not a lot of enemies, so no, I don't think there's...
Yet.
Yet. Give it time.
We're having too much fun.
Is there such thing?
Eh.
Oh.
Life's too short to take yourself too seriously. And that's coming from somebody who takes herself seriously a lot. So, I feel really good right now.
God. No, and taking things too seriously, growing up too quickly, there's just... I don't know. There's, especially, like you said, the past few years.
Yeah.
To not to try and dive into the whole COVID thing too much, but... especially in our field, that change, and in a lot of fields, I'm not taking away from anybody else's, but in our field, especially with playing out and stuff like that, that is just cut. There's no, from what I understand, there's no unemployment for that. There was
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Most of those musicians are 1099 if they claim their stuff.
That's just it, or if they even qualify for it. You have to play at a certain place X amount of times and have your W-2 or W-9 on file.
Yeah.
To even get that, if you don't play at that place that much, then you're not getting a 1099.
Right. So there's no unemployment. There's no extra places to go because you're stuck at home, and so. We moved to live streaming. Yeah. And that was interesting.
It was. I was doing live streams 3 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, because I was kind of watching to see what everybody else is doing for the first couple weeks, so that way there wasn't too many at the same time on certain days.
Right.
And I felt like Tuesday at 6 o'clock and Thursday at 6 o'clock were my best times, and then I would do those for secular music, or if there was a holiday coming up, 4th of July, I did a patriotic one.
Okay.
Or my parents' birthdays were in the spring and the summer while those were going on. So I would do ones that were dedicated to them and their favorite songs or songs that we listened to growing up or something like that. But then on Sundays, I would save them for inspirational/Christian music.
Okay.
Because the first one that I ever did on a Sunday was Palm Sunday.
Gotcha.
And then the next week was Easter, and then it just kind of was the trend that kept going. So that way, I started my first band in church. I've been involved in music at church. I am a music leader at church now, where the third Sunday I help lead service as a praise and worship leader. But that was kind of also my way of okay, just because the bars and the restaurants are taken out, my church also isn't doing music right now besides just the organist playing every Sunday, which is great. It kept it going. Yeah. But our choir stopped, our praise and worship team stopped, our chime choir stopped, our worship band stopped. And that was kind of my way to put it also back into the world of, this is my way of giving back to my church to an extent, because of all the people that I'm friends with on Facebook and Instagram from my church, that I see you and this is my way of still reaching out to you in this time when we can't be together.
No, that's awesome. I know we've talked a lot about music. Mm-hmm. What do you do outside of music then?
Oh gosh, I work. I have 4 jobs.
Welcome to the club.
I have 4 jobs. No, I teach here on Mondays and Tuesdays. I gig, so that's the second job. I'm
Yep.
a praise and worship leader at church. My third Sunday of every month is kind of my Sunday, where I go in with the piano player and we help lead service together. And then I work at a pizza place. So
Okay.
that's kind of like the steady day job that pays my bills, and everything else is like more bills and fun money.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I what else do I do? That's the real question. My parents made the mistake of buying me a Cricut for Christmas. So like I'm finding excuses to make like greeting cards for people all the time, or like I made our stickers, our vinyl window clings for the
Yes.
studio because we needed some new ones.
And this.
And the
For the people that are watching on video,
Yes.
not just on the
I made
the
that.
audio only. Nice little cloth for our table. I'll spill it. Our Goodwill table for I think $6.
Hey, that's good for it. It's a nice table.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a nice table.
Oh yeah, no. I thought about refinishing it, but then I was like, we could just cover it.
There we go. And I
Yes, and
covered it.
now we have
We're
branding.
good. Yeah, now we have branding.
Yes.
Yeah, so my parents made the mistake of buying me a Cricut. I've been kind of delving back into my arts and craft world. I like those diamond dots paintings.
Okay.
I really like to read. I wish I had more time to read, but I do like to read. I like novels. I've been trying to get into the classics. I finished Pride and Prejudice a few months ago for the first time. That was awesome. Jane Austen. What else? Biographies. I really like biographies or history books.
Okay.
So I'm currently reading a book called Her Country, and it's about all the women in country music from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and forward. Dolly Parton, who else? Dolly Parton, Tammy Wynette, Loretta Lynn, Patsy Cline. But then it's also the modern take with this whole equal play thing going on in country music right now, where like radio stations can't play two female artists back to back.
Oh.
Yeah, it's this whole thing that's going on in the country music world, and it's been going on for a few years now, but the movement behind it is called equal play. And so this book is kind of centered around the stories of Maren Morris, Mickey Guyton, and Casey Musgraves, because they've kind of taken a stand against a bunch of different things that are considered untraditional in the country music world. And how even when they get ostracized by like the media and radio and stuff, they're still paving their own way, and they're still some of the best-selling artists right now in country music. So that's interesting. That's my little tidbit of what I'm doing right now is reading that.
If we're gonna dive into the more country music thing, I don't listen to country all that much.
You're not the only person who's told me that.
No. And I mean, I'll listen to it on the occasion, depending. And a lot of times it's when my top is down in my car and I'm driving down the road and back road type thing, and it's like, screw it, I'll throw it on. But there's been a lot more like country things that I've been interested in. I don't remember the name of the show anymore. And of course I'm gonna try and explain the show. I think it was on CMT.
Okay.
I'm just gonna do myself a favor
And Google it.
because if I try and explain this, it's gonna be awful. The woman in the show was from Friday Night Lights. That's all I remember.
From Friday Night Lights. I don't think I've ever seen Friday Night Lights, believe it or not.
What's that woman's name? Come on. Connie Britton.
Connie Britton. Okay. Are you thinking of Nashville?
Yes.
Yes. I've never watched Nashville, actually.
No?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just never did. I think it started at a time where I just really wasn't that interested in it, and then just never actually sat down and watched it. Like, I don't watch Yellowstone either, and people are surprised by that.
My dad has been telling me I need to watch Yellowstone.
I've heard from a lot of people that
I've heard
should
it's
watch
really
it, but
good.
I just have a hard time to sit down and watch TV because I don't have a lot of time to just sit down and watch TV. And so when I do, I'm like, oh, do I want to get involved in something where like it's always a continuation of whatever happened last week, and if I get 3 weeks behind, then I'm 3 hours behind. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I almost wait to watch certain shows until they're done.
yeah.
Because, I mean, now with streaming services and they just drop the whole season on day one, like I'll try and cut out a day to just watch 8 hours of a show in a row.
Yeah.
Screw it.
Yeah.
But no, with Nashville, there was a lot more that I found, and it's been years since I've seen the show now, and I don't even think I finished it. But I watched quite a bit. I watched up to a certain point where then I think I cried. And then I
you were
stopped
like, I'm
watching.
done.
And I was like, I'm done for now. And I always meant to go back, and I
Yeah.
never did. But there was a lot that I watched that dove a lot more into the country scene than I knew about in the first, and I didn't know much. So, being a drama TV show, there's certain things that I know are exaggerated and stuff like that. But it really kind of gave more of a, I guess, a visual picture instead of people just telling me or hearing stories about how things work in towns like Nashville and like the music scene playing at the Bluebird and stuff like that. It really helped visualize what that all actually is and how big of a deal some of those places are. And I just never, like I said, just hearing stories about it, I could never understand why this place was so big, because it's like, it just sounds like a small bar on a strip.
No, it's not. I will tell you this. I got to play the open mic at the Bluebird.
Okay.
Like, I think almost 4 years ago at this point.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it was the summer of my 21st birthday, and that was like my big thing, was that me, my mom, and then my godmother, my great aunt, she flew in to Chicago, and then we drove to Nashville together, and we spent a week in Nashville. And the Bluebird did their open mic. I think it's still on Mondays. It was on a Monday night. But we sat at a breakfast place with all three of our cell phones out, and it took 247 phone calls to get in to play the open mic at the Bluebird.
Really?
Because you have like a half-hour time slot that they open it up, and the first 25 people that get through, you get to play it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, and then when you get there that night, you find out what order it was that you made it. And I was like number 12 or something like that. So I was smack dab in the middle. But yeah, it took 247 phone calls on 3 different phones to get in. I know people that called that night because we were all talking as we're waiting outside together to get in. And somebody was like, I called 860 times. I called 140. I called, whatever the numbers were. But it was this insane amount. But when you walk in and you see the pictures of the greats that have played there, I mean, Taylor Swift's played there, Willie Nelson, Trisha Yearwood is there a lot. And it's not just the open mic either. They do their songwriter rounds where the people behind all the hits that you don't see their face on the album cover are there, and they're your childhood heroes, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, no, I had no clue.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I can't imagine calling somewhere that many times. How like, what was the time frame of these 240 calls? Like,
8 minutes? Something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, you'd hit it. As soon as you hit the busy signal, you'd hang up, and you'd try it again. You'd hang up, you'd try it again. We had our waitress trying to, like, see if we wanted extra drinks after breakfast or something, and we're like, no, now is not the time. And she's like, what you doing? And we're like, we're calling the Bluebird. And she's like, never mind, I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was like, okay. And then she came back with her bill, and she's like, did you make it? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, good luck.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but but that's how serious it is that people, this is like, Nashville as a whole is like the mecca, right, of country music. It's Music City. This is where, at least as far as the commercial side goes, this is it.
Yeah.
But then you've got all these other places in there, like the Bluebird or the Commodore Grill, that these are where all like the serious songwriters hang out. And those are the people that you want to meet, and those are the people that you want to go see. And it might not be Garth Brooks on that stage, but it's the person who wrote the songs for Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
So.
No. So we're going to wrap up our next few minutes, kind of like how we did the last show.
Yeah.
What's the song you're going to play for us after? Actually, I'll dive into that quick. For our podcast now, we're going to do just a podcast part like you're listening to now. And then just on YouTube, then we are going to post the songs. So after this, I think we're going to post them at the same time. You can go online, watch them at the back to back. So you'll be able to find the podcast Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you find podcasts. But the song will just be on YouTube.
Okay.
And so
Cool.
We're going to direct our viewers there. Make sure you go and check this out. But so sorry to cut that off. Still working out the nerves with hosting this from now on.
No worries.
But what are you going to play for us, son?
I'm going to play a song called Holding My Own.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that one about?
I wrote it last year, a couple days before my 25th birthday. I turned 26 today as of recording. But leading up to those couple days, I was sitting there and I kind of had this feeling of, there's so much going on in the world. Like, I'm watching all these people that I went to high school and college with, and they're getting married, and they're having children, or they're engaged, or they just got a new career, or, they have health insurance. I don't have health insurance. Those kinds of things that you kind of take for granted. And then you watch everybody else and you kind of start to like have those feelings inside of yourself of maybe I'm behind, maybe I'm not where I'm supposed to be, maybe, you know, XYZ. But at the same time, realizing that I chose an unconventional career path and there isn't a lot of security, but I'm okay with that. I got to start traveling more. We talked about that with music last year. I released a new EP. I've got a full album and the EP out now. I got to open for some of my childhood heroes last year. And that was just an incredible experience. And I was excited for 25 when I looked at it from that perspective. And I'm super excited for 26. I mean, there's still things that are coming. And it was just a nice little thing of, yes, there's so many things going on in the world, and maybe you're not at that point in your life for, you know, XYZ. But at the same time, you're holding your own, and you're doing pretty darn good right now. So take it as it is, enjoy the moment, and that's what the song's about.
Perfect. Well, make sure you all go to our page and listen to that song that we are recording right after this. I want to thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. I mean, you're only here a couple of days every week anyways. So.
I know, right? But it's never the day that you're here, so no, it's nice to sit down and actually get to talk to you.
Yeah, no, we never cross paths all that much anymore. No. So, no, this was nice. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in and be on the lookout for who our next guest is going to be on Who's the Buzz.